How's it going, everybody? This is Kevin Kring with College Golf Local, and I'm really excited to bring on our guest today. Um, I'm bringing on the guest or the coach of Newman University in Wichita, Kansas. Taryn here is just finishing up her first year as the coach at Newman, and I'm just really excited to bring her on and kind of get the perspective of your school. So, Taryn, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing, given everything that's going on right now?
Doing as well as we can, just working away, but missing seeing my student athletes. But they're doing well, and I'm glad that everybody is staying safe and well.
Yeah, I understand that. Was this, I don't know, this transition into this kind of like, I guess, dead period, was it made especially hard? I mean, you being a first year coach, just kind of starting to get your feet wet. Does this seem like it almost gives you a leg up, or is it kind of challenging to kind of sift through everything that's going on right now?
It's pretty tough. I mean, especially because I had the fall season to kind of get to know the girls and build those relationships on the course. But the girls were just starting to kind of get used to me on the course, and a couple of my girls were playing really well and had goals of qualifying for postseason, and then all of that kind of stuff gets stripped away. But I think we can turn it into a positive, and I don't have any seniors, fortunately, so we can kind of twist it into a positive and take this and see how we can get better and improve to be even better next year. So that's kind of how I'm trying to kind of twist the negative into a positive, to kind of just be better for next year and take what we learned this year and just all of us collectively be better next year. So.
Well, that's a great attitude to have. I mean, that's all we can really do is just make the best of this. And, if that's the attitude you have towards this, I'm sure your girls are kind of seeing that in you, and, that's being portrayed all throughout. So I'll just tell you, so what I'm kind of trying to do here with just College Golf Local in this interview and everything like that is I'm just trying to educate kind of the junior golfers in Southwest Missouri and the surrounding area, just about what it takes to play in college, and that there are other options besides playing at the big Division I schools, that college golf is amazing, that the opportunity to play should be taken advantage of, but it just takes taking the right steps and education and reaching out to coaches and building resumes and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to hit on a couple different topics that I know you played, I played, some things that we might know that we can pass on. And obviously, especially in the seat that you're sitting in now, you bring a unique perspective, and I'm looking forward to getting to that with you. So the first question I'm going to ask you is basically, what does it take for a recruit to be someone that you've probably never even heard of, to somebody that you're tracking all their scores, you're watching their results, they're on your short list of people who you're going to be recruiting? What does it take to get that process started and to that point?
Yeah, I think there's multiple ways that people can get their name out there. And, speaking for me, who was from a small town, it's harder just because there's not those big tournaments to play in that are going to get you like national recognition. But it can start multiple of ways. Word of mouth is one way. Just, hey, have you heard of this kid? Have you heard of this kid? Just talking to other coaches and that kind of thing. Or some players have somebody that helps them with their recruiting process. So that's another way to hear about them, is they'll be like, hey, you should keep your eye out on this kid, even if they're not old enough for me to talk to yet, just to keep your eye out on them. Or sometimes they'll reach out to me, or you just kind of do your research online and look at, Kansas golf scores for me and local kids, and then just you can get on AJGA, and there's a bunch of different Junior Golf Foundation, those kinds of things that you can kind of see who those top players are in the country and kind of get them on your radar, and then get the communication rolling that way. So
I heard you mentioned a couple different tours and tournaments there. I mean, a lot of parents and kids think that, like, okay, if I'm going to play in college, I have to play in AJGA, but those tournaments are kind of hard to get into. What other, to the extent that you can get into it, what other tournaments and tours are you kind of keeping your eye on for players that's not AJGA? I mean, is it high school golf? Is it maybe just like the Kansas Golf Association? What sort of, what are you looking at?
yeah, I kind of have a different perspective on this because of my own experience in the recruiting process. And like I said, I'm from a town of 1,500 people, and I played in a lot of the Kansas AMs and the Prairie Invitationals that are just right around here, but are playing against the best players in Kansas. I played in one tournament in Florida at the Optimist International, but otherwise I didn't get out into those big tournaments. And I'm personally not going to judge a kid by if they're playing in the big time events or not. Obviously score matters, and you look at yardage and different things that they're playing, different golf courses that they're playing. But If they're out there competing, they have that pressure on them anyway because it's a competitive environment, whether that's against, 200 other players or just against, 20 other players in their home city in their, city league championship or whatever it is. So it is hard to get into those tournaments, and some people aren't able to do the travel because all those big tournaments are in California and Florida and those kind of places. And I mean, I don't think a kid should be faulted for not being able to participate in those as long as they're out there playing and trying to get better and trying to get noticed in other ways.
I imagine it's like you just want to see competitiveness. You just want to see somebody who's willing to kind of push themselves, even if it's locally. Play against some people that might beat you, and then see how you do, and gradually get better over time. It's not about just one little path that's AJGA or bust. There's so many different ways to play in college, and I'm glad you kind of highlighted some of those for sure.
Yeah.
So I was gonna, what do you kind of look for in a potential recruit? I mean, obviously we all want people who are going to shoot 65 every single day, but what are some of the things you're looking for, maybe aside from just good golf?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, obviously academics are important because that's what's going to take them through in their life and in their career a lot farther than golf is going to. So making sure that they're a good student and they keep up with their grades that they are involved in currently and their schooling they're involved in currently, and knowing that when they come to college, they lose that structure a little bit in terms of time management. There's not somebody, a mom or a dad at home telling them to do their homework and that kind of stuff. It's kind of their own thing, and they have to manage golf and school by themselves and not necessarily with somebody else. I mean, obviously we as coaches help with that, but so that's important to look for that. And golfers, I don't know what it is, but they seem to do really well with their grades, so haven't had a whole lot of issues with that so far, but it's definitely something I look at. But then just a kid that loves the game and wants to get better and is coachable, because coachability for me is a big thing, just because if we're out on the course and they need help making a decision, if we're butting heads all the time and they're not coachable and open to trying new things and willing to make themselves better, then it's not going to probably be a good situation for them or me. And so those are big things, because there's obviously the golf score matters, but there's so much more to a person than the score that they put on a scoreboard. And so, I kind of look at that as well. Just, do they work hard? Are they coachable? And you can find those things out from their coach, their high school coach, different things like that to find out what kind of kid they are and how they approach the game and how they approach teammates and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things to go into for me. I see if they're involved in other activities, just because if they've been involved in other sports teams and I know that they've been a part of a team, they know how to work together with people. If they've been involved in the community, I know that won't be a change for them when they get to college and are involved in team community service. So there's a lot of things on a resume that they kind of jump out and hit you, but a lot of it for me comes with building a relationship with the kid and figuring out if we think we can have a well-oiled machine of a relationship on and off the course.
That's awesome. So you mentioned, academics, community service. Those are some of the things that people obviously need to put on resumes. A resume is more than just a golf score or how far you hit a 7-iron or something like that. Is there anything else on a resume that you kind of would want to see that might be, I don't know, not as common or anything like that might give you some insight on how a player or who a player is?
I mean, a lot of things that I see on a resume would be academics and athletic related, but I do like when people, will give you that paragraph or those bullet points of what they have been involved in, because like I said, that just shows that they can work well with people, and they can, if they're a volunteer at the first tee, then they're helping kids grow the game, and, they're sharing their knowledge with other people to help grow the game of golf. So those kind of things, if they're, a basketball player and a golfer, well, they know how to be a part of the team. They know how to be competitive. Like, that's just in their blood kind of thing. Not that just golf only athletes are bad, but it just shows that they have been involved and they can come in and, make relationships with other athletes and will support their fellow athletes and, come in and provide good team culture when they get here.
Yeah. On the contrary, is there anything on a resume that you've ever seen that you're like, this is totally unnecessary and I do not care about?
Um,
I asked because I've seen a couple of different things on resumes, like one in particular where there's some like excuses with scores. It's like, here's a score, but here's a score, and I shot this because I had a hurt wrist this day. Or here's one that, it's like justification where I'm like, you have 100 scores here. Why are you trying to justify your 2 bad scores? Just,
yeah.
we all understand golf works that way. So I'm not trying
Right.
to set you up for a trick question or anything like that, but I just didn't know if you've ever seen anything where you're like, I do not care about this sort of thing or not.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point. I mean, there's no need to put, oh, the wind was blowing 30 mile an hour this day, but it was only, it was perfect this day. That's not necessarily, like you said, you have all the scores, and you're never going to find a golfer that doesn't have a couple bad rounds in there. So nobody's perfect in the game of golf. So golf is not a game of perfect, and I always say it's a game of misses because you're never going to hit every shot well. So it's kind of how you manage that. And yeah, you don't need to justify that. And I talk to my girls about that all the time, that every day is new. And that's why we're on a team. So if you have a bad day, you have four other people to help pick you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we've both played and we've been there, and we understand like you're just going to have bad days sometimes, and they are not avoidable in any way. So just
Amen.
almost own it. I mean, if I said, I think one of the things that I remember going through my recruiting process is I was playing in a decently big tournament, and I shot 83 or 4 the first day and was just devastated because I was out of the tournament. I came back the next day with like a 72 or 3, but I was still bummed out because I was out of it. But I remember one of the coaches saying that those 2 scores back to back are what made him want to recruit me because I bounced back. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that I want to relay to kids as well, is like coaches want to see you play poorly. They want to see how you handle adversity, all of those sort of things. So own the bad golf, because we all do it. It's unavoidable.
Yeah, exactly. Like any golfer in America, whether you're out there competing or you're just out on a Saturday afternoon with your buddies, if you're playing well, everybody's going to be happy. But it's when you're playing bad, how are you handling it and how are you overcoming it? Are you making birdies and pars after you make a big number, or are you letting that big number string into four and five more? So that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, given your experience on both sides of the table here, when would you kind of recommend that a junior golfer, level not really mattering all that much, but when would you recommend they start working on a resume, start emailing coaches, just trying to get their name out there? Because the main thing that I've seen is the kids, when they finally realize that college golf is something they want, it's too late. They're like a senior, and I'm like, if you would have just started this when you were a freshman, even if you weren't very good. But I don't know. I've never been a coach, so I just want to hear from your perspective. When would you recommend that a player start kind of taking the steps to get ready to play in college, just through resume and communication and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would say as you get into high school, especially because I mean, a lot of middle schools don't have golf. So once you hit high school and you're in a high school competitive environment and like a summer off-season competitive environment, like a lot of people play those tournaments and then they obviously have their high school season, that's when I would start building the resume. And obviously we can't talk to them yet, but building the resume, putting scores on the board, like they might not think that we're seeing those things, but we are, like you hear about freshmen all the time. Oh, did you see that freshman put this score on the board? People have you on your radar and they're in your files. And by the time that date comes that we can talk to you, we pick up the phone or we email them. And so freshman in high school is the best way to do it. So when that time comes, they're ready for that communication, and start, researching programs too. Like start getting in your head and developing kind of a short list of what do I want in a college golf experience? What do I want in a school? What do I want in a coach? What do I want in a team? And just start kind of researching schools and making that list. So when the time does come, like you said, you're not scrambling, in December of your senior year trying to find a place to play. I mean, it's still possible, but you're going to have a lot more options and a lot more availability if you get on it soon, and you can build that resume, because coaches are going to look for that resume and see kind of what all you've done to prepare yourself for this.
Right. And I think too, you don't even have to be like an incredible, like elite player as a freshman in order to do that. It's just, if there's an inkling that you want to play in college, just try to get ahead and get ahead of the game on it. Because some of the kids who end up playing it, end up not playing in college, are the ones who could potentially be small schools players if they just would have taken the steps earlier on. Because there's a lot of players that are good when they're juniors and seniors, are good enough to play at a small, Division III NAIA or something like that, but they just didn't take the steps and those roster spots went away. So it's just about being proactive in the process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you have any inkling to want to play, I mean, once you hit high school, that's the time. That's the time to start talking to mom and dad, start talking to your coach, and start getting someone that can help you build that resume so you are ready and that you have. ideas of what you're kind of looking for in your college golf experience, because not every place is going to be suitable for every person. Everybody's different, so they kind of have a couple things that you're looking for. Some people want a really big campus, and some people want a small campus so they're not too overwhelmed and they can meet a lot of people and class sizes are smaller. So, there's a lot of different things out there available. So knowing what you want and knowing your goals and how to get there those freshman and sophomore year, when all coaches can do is look at you and not talk to you, is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we're certainly trying to do with College Golf Local, is be helpful in building resumes and helping with communication just early on and being proactive in the process, because you never know where someone has the opportunity to end up. And like you just said, it's all about kind of taking those steps to get yourself ready and stuff like that. So I have one more question for you here from myself that I kind of came up with, and then I have a little section of some questions that some of the parents that we know submitted to us. And just the last question, it's broad, but what's the best advice you would give to a junior golfer who wants to play in college? Doesn't matter if they're getting ready or if they're young, early in the process. Just what's a couple things you would say to somebody who says, I want to play in college?
Yeah, I mean, just dream big. I mean, those kids just dream big, and golf takes a lot of hard work. There's a lot of parts to the game, and just go out and practice the things that you need to work on. And obviously, if people are doing their research, you can't practice short game enough. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Everybody that wants to play college golf can pretty much, hit the ball well enough, but it comes down to short game and putting 90% of the time. And speaking for myself, coming out of high school, I had a dream of playing college golf, and I worked hard at it, but I was also a double sport athlete. So I just begged someone to give me a chance. And once I got there, you just put your nose to the grindstone and you just practice a lot. And it doesn't have to be 3 and 4 hours a day. It's more, quality, not quantity in my book. Like if you're practicing things and you're intentional on what you're practicing, then that's going to get you to the next level. But, I got to that point where I was doubting myself. Oh, can I really do this? And you can, if you put your mind to it and you practice the right things and those kinds of things. And my dream came true, and I got to play for 4 years and loved every minute of it. And that's why I'm in coaching. I want to give other kids that opportunity to come to a place, live out their dreams, and play the game that they love while getting an education, and that they become better than when they stepped on campus as a freshman, and when they walk across the stage as a senior, that they're a better person, friend, golfer, and everything in between. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's very well said. A couple questions from parents here. This first one, it's interesting, so I'll kind of let you take this as you will. But the question is, at what point should a senior consider picking a college and attempt to walk on versus waiting for a college to sign them? Like, when is the time to stop waiting on that call? I think what they mean is just basically, when is it too late? When is every single roster spot full and you just have to resort to, I'm just going to go to a school and try to walk on and hopefully someone will notice me, sort of thing?
yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. I mean, recruiting seems to start earlier all the time, in the sense of we get, inquiries and emails and stuff from young kids, younger and younger every year. Obviously the rule of when we can talk to them hasn't changed, but the times of when kids are sending things out. But in recruiting, communication is huge. So if you're trying to walk on somewhere, like, you need to have that communication with the coach, because it's not a situation you can just, walk on campus and expect to play like you would on a high school team. So that's, whether you're a walk-on or whether you're the number one recruit in the country, you have to have good communication with that coach to make sure that there is a roster spot available. And if you are interested in walking on, like, that's something that the recruit needs to express to the coach. And then the coach can kind of go look at roster spots that are available, and then can kind of get back to them and say, hey, yeah, I do think I have a spot for you, like, you could walk on, or hey, sorry, my roster's full, that kind of thing. But just, the coach thinking someone's going to walk on and the student athlete having no idea, or vice versa, the student athlete think, oh, I'm just going to walk on, but there's been no communication. That's where things are going to get a little dicey, because it's two opposite thoughts. So communication is huge for me. And I know it would be for a lot of other people because, I mean, walk-ons are not a bad thing at all. It's just you have to be in agreement that you have room and space for them on your roster.
Right. Yeah. What I've certainly seen is schools and teams, there are walk-ons, but the coaches know about them. They know they're coming. They have a spot. The amount of times that a player shows up on campus, the coach does not know who they are, and then they end up on the team is incredibly rare. So again, this just kind of goes back to what we talked about is like communication. Be in touch with coaches, let them know who you are, let them know you're coming. It's kind of simple in that instance where like if you just think, oh, I'm just going to go to Kansas State or Kansas or Missouri or whatever, and just say, oh, I'm just going to go walk on like it's your high school team, like you're going to be in for a rude awakening because it just doesn't really work out that way.
Yeah, and if you're interested in that, have communication with the coach. And there's a lot of teams that have walk-on, so it's not like
Right.
it's uncommon to be a walk-on, but you just have to communicate because it's really no different than your number one player because you still have to have a roster spot available no matter what their skill and talent level is. So it's definitely big. You can't have assumptions when it comes to that in college golf just because we do have roster spots that are limited and different, things that we have to look at. It's not like, high school teams fluctuate every year with how many kids they have. And college teams do a little bit, but we are usually like when we go into a recruiting class, like we know this is how many people we want for this year. So if something's not communicated, then the odds of it actually happening are not very high.
Right. Absolutely. Next question for you here is how much stock do you put into swing videos that you would receive with a resume or anything like that?
A lot, especially right now when we can't go out and see anybody and there's nothing to watch. And it's something if people are sending me stuff from like international kids, a lot of the international kids have swing video attached to their resumes and profiles anyway. But that's big because not all international, a lot of them do, but not all internationals come to the States and play in tournaments so they can be seen. And so I look at them a lot. Obviously, score has a lot to do with it too, because at the end of the day, if you're shooting 73, but your swing is not textbook, like if you're getting the job done, don't fix something that isn't broke, So, but I look at that, just to see if I'm going to recruit this kid, what skills do they bring to the table? And a lot of those swing videos have putting and chipping in it too, and you can kind of see the fundamentals, and it allows you to kind of be like, okay, so if I can get this, like their scores are pretty good, if I can get this kid, like this is an area that I think we could really tackle and get better at right away. So especially in a time like now when you can't get out and watch people, and it's not as important for local kids because it's easy to get out during high school season or in the summer and watch those kids, but especially the internationals and in a time like right now where people are far away and we can't get out and see them in person, it is a big deal that we can kind of see the foundation that they'll bring into your program.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I've kind of told kids is like, I've seen some times where it's like trying to get the swing just perfect before you send the video, get my lessons in, get it right on plane, all that sort of stuff. And I think I feel like swing videos, they tell the story of the score a little bit, but the score is still ultimately what matters because you could have a swing that is absolutely awful to look at, but if you shoot 69, you're going to take that player any day over somebody who's got a beautiful swing that shoots 78 because there's a story behind it. So it's a great tool, especially like I said, in a time like this where I think, if a player can take you as inside of the ropes as possible, whether it's a video of how they think around the golf course, like, hey, I'm 146 at my home course, the pin's on the right, I'm aiming right here, here's how I do it. In a swing video with like that sort of detail, that's one of the things I'm telling some of our kids to do. Just because, it's hard right now. You're not able to be out there and recruit, but we want to be able to give some context to how all these kids play. So you're spot on, especially at a time like this. We got to get creative in how we're getting kids seen for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing we can't see in a swing video is how they think
Right.
through shots and how they react to shots and that kind of thing. Because golf is so, you have to be able to self-correct, and it's so important that the kids know their swing. So like you said, not having a textbook swing, if you can get the ball in the hole, then that's all that matters. I mean, because this is a unique sport. It's not basketball where we can see what everybody's doing at the same time, or volleyball where you can see every player. I mean, these are five, when we're playing as a team, five girls are spread out across the course and I can't see them all at once. So if they start having something go wrong, they need to know their own swing well enough to be able to self-correct and to be able to rally from a bad hole or a bad swing or whatever. And so that's super important. And it doesn't matter if you have two planes going on, but if you get down to the ball and you're square at impact and you hit fairways, then so be it. So
sign them up.
that's right.
Yeah. I got one last question for you here. And this is kind of, it's from a parent, but it's also for parents. Whenever you're out recruiting, how much are you paying attention to the parents and their demeanor and how they're acting as much as the player and the player's demeanor and how they're acting and stuff like that? I mean, I know you probably would look more at the player, but are you paying attention to the way the parent is behaving and acting and stuff like that as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal. And it's honestly something that a lot of parents don't realize at all. Or like even the way, obviously we can't talk to kids until June 15th before their junior year. And so we can get emails and stuff and whatever, and we can put them in our files and have their name there and follow them, but we can't actually talk to them and communicate with them until that date. And it's the same for their parents. And a lot of parents don't know that. So for all you parents that are listening, we're not being mean to you or rude, ignoring you. And it's weird with golf. Is in basketball or whatever, you go and sit in the bleachers and you don't really see them. But golf, there's not as many people, and you might be walking down the cart path with them side by side, and you can't speak to them. So it's a little bit of a fine line that you're walking. But when I'm talking to them, with the parents, when they are old enough to do so, I mean, I take into consideration how they're talking about their kid as well, because you can tell when a parent is talking how overbearing they are with their kid. Just about how they talk to you, how they talk to you about them. And obviously a parent's input in the recruiting process is a big deal because it's their kid and they've been at home for 17, 18 years and they're going to send them off, and the parent needs to be comfortable with where they're sending their kid and stuff. But once that you get them to that point, like, let the kid take control, let them spread their wings and fly and live their dreams. And that's what we are here to help them, and support staff is there to help them when they get there. But it's the kid's process, and it's not something that we want overbearing parent, because if they're like that in high school, then they're going to be like that in college. And the relationship that I have with my girls individually is between me and them. They're in college, they're adults. It's not going to be a meeting between them, me, and their parents. It's me and the student athlete, and all I ask is that the parent supports him, comes and shows up and is their biggest cheerleader. And that's the best thing that a parent can do to their child in the recruiting process and in college, is just support them and be their biggest cheerleader on and off the course, and let us do the rest.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, I think it's just go out there, support your kid, know that, understand that golf is hard. Sometimes parents aren't golfers and they, might see a bad score from a kid and not understand it, but just understand that golf is hard. Coaches know that. I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, you almost would rather see a kid play poorly than play well, because if you're out there recruiting them, you already know they're a good enough player for you. You want to see how they handle certain things. So parents, same thing. They want to see how you are whenever things are bad. So, like I said, it's one of those things that I've kind of certainly seen over my 15, 20 years of playing competitive golf, is I've seen some bad behavior from parents. And I just always thought if I was a coach, I would want absolutely nothing to do with any of that, because I would have to imagine the burnout rate is kind of high for kids like that. If their parents are just beating them down every time they make a bogey or something like that, like that's brutal.
Yeah, well, and if you have someone on a visit and the recruit says two words to you and the parents just going and not giving their kid a chance, I mean, that's a red flag to me too. I mean,
Yeah.
This is yeah, you're a part of it and helping them get there, but this is their destiny. This is their future that they are looking to fulfill their dream of playing college golf, and it needs to be them. They need to be the ones building the relationship with the coach. They need to be the ones building that relationship with, the student athletes on the team. They need to be the ones that like the campus, because that's going to be their home for 4 years. And I mean, the other thing to remember too is when recruits are committing to us, I mean, when we offer a recruit a spot, we're also committing to them. So parents need to have a little bit of trust in that as well, that when I make your kid an offer, I'm committing to them for 4 years or whatever, however many years your college is, to give them my best, and then they'll give me their best. So there has to be a little trust in that as well, but definitely, kind of take a step back and let the kid do their thing.
Yeah, that's well said. That's perfect. Well, Taryn, that's all I have for you today. I appreciate you taking the time to come on and educate these kids and these families just about kind of what it takes to play at the next level. Just trying to educate in the best way that we can, because there's so many opportunities for kids to play. It doesn't have to be at the biggest school. I just look back at my experience and just think, I just loved being in the team van. I loved waiting in the airport all those times with your friends, and those opportunities exist far more than kids might realize. And you're at Newman University in Wichita, Kansas, and I personally, I love Wichita. It's one of my favorite cities in the country, and I hope that kids all around are able to realize programs like yours, when it's not that far away, but it might not be heard of off the bat, but it's a great place to play. You'd be amazing to play for. I love the way that you recruit, the way you're looking for kids of character, high academic standards, all those sort of things, and give them an opportunity at the next level for sure. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, Sharon. Well, be well, be safe, and hopefully you will be out on the course with your girls sooner than later.
Yes, I hope so too. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.